that. And so if I am so focused on staying on the line, I can't fulfill my assignment. But my God is big enough to handle my fault, my strokes, grubs, my mess ups, because he's already prepared for what I might do. He knows what I'm going to do before I do it, and he already made preparation for me before I get there. What follows darkness is light. That darkness is the indicator that light is getting ready to shine. So there it is in Genesis, when darkness was upon the face of the deep, and God in the spirit form moved upon the face of the waters, and then God said, let there be. Because darkness precedes the light. Are you understanding what I'm saying? But he needs the darkness there so that God can move upon the face of the deep, so that the shift can take place. Listen, look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor that shift take place in the darkness. Oh my God, you hear what I just said? Everybody's not going to see the shift that's happening. They see the chaos, but they don't see the shift. They see all the craziness going on in your life, but they don't understand that underneath the darkness, God is moving in secret. He's moving in quiet. He's moving in the hidden places. He's moving in the cracks and the corners and the crevices. He's moving in places that you cannot see. And when the light comes, they're going to see a new order. Afraid to dream, afraid to imagine. But I'm here to tell you that you are an infinite, limitless, boundless being. Are you willing to do what is necessary to have what you desire?
Thank you for joining us. Please take a moment and like the Facebook page. Subscribe to the YouTube page and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we go live. If you are finding value in these enrichment sessions, please consider supporting this page financially. Your donations allow us to continue to provide spiritual enlightenment, self-exploration, and kingdom knowledge. Also, consider becoming a partner because partnerships have this privilege. As a partner, you'll be able to attend our annual Partners Only Summer Summit, join us for our 6 a.m. virtual daily guided meditation sessions, weekly advanced empowerment sessions, regular prophetic insights and instructions, 30% discount on all Emerge books and merchandise, and a custom Emerge t-shirt. You'll also gain full access to the private Emerge Movement community page as well as group chats. Once again, thank you for watching.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Emerge Empowerment Session. I'm your host, Isaac J. Miles Sr., and I am overwhelmingly excited that you've decided to join us this morning for this conscious conversation. This conversation promises to be empowering. It is going to be in depth. It's going to cause you to really think. It may trigger some things inside of you, but it is all centered around your healing and wholeness and advancement in your spiritual journey. So you're tuned into the right place at the right time. You've just tuned into one of the most powerful places on the planet. This is the Emerge movement. We welcome you here this morning. Now, I'm going to ask all of you that are watching me right now to do me one favor very quickly. Take a moment, like, share, and then post. Like, share, and then post. Like this video, this live broadcast that we're doing right now, share it on your page, and then post a tag in the comment that is tag all of your friends and families and loved ones, people that you know, as many people as you possibly can. Invite them to come and be a part of this conscious conversation as well. And hey, when you share this page on your page, in the description above it, just put the highlight in there. The little, what's it called? An ampersand? I think it's called. The little and sign and put highlight. That'll notify all of your followers that they should come and be alerted to what's happening on this post, and they'll be able to join us in this conversation. For those of you watching us on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the Emerge page so that you'll always be alerted when we're getting ready to come on the air, as well as when we post other general information and other informative insights and empowering videos. Make sure you do that on the YouTube platform. It helps us to, again, expand the platform and reach a broader and larger audience. I want to thank you for your vigilant support that you've been giving to this platform as the audience begins to grow and more people are finding out about what we're doing and tuning in. I appreciate each of you that have been so supportive with the word of mouth and telling others about it. I encourage those of you watching this morning to consider becoming a partner with the Emerge movement. Emerge Life Enrichment Center is a virtual community that is designed to empower and equip people on their journey towards spiritual wholeness. Our job and our mission is to provide you with the spiritual principles, practices, and patterns that you need in order to create, cultivate, and curate the life that you desire. We want to give you your power back. We want you to be informed about the infinite capacity for greatness that you have inside of you. Not because you are a particular ethnicity or race, not because of your sexual orientation, not because you have embraced a particular religious ideology, but simply because you are a divine individuation of the all of everything. You are the likeness and the image of God. You are a divine being that is infinitely present across the multiverse, experiencing and expressing itself as God
in the earth. And so we want to inform you and enlighten you and empower you with everything that you need in order to be able to create that life for yourself. All right. Thank you so much again. Let's get into our topic for today. I know that the headline topic might have been a little bit, made you a little bit curious when you started seeing the headline that says, "The stories we tell ourselves." The stories we tell ourselves. Today, I want to explore the narratives that each of us have going on in our head. Now, whether you are consciously aware of them or unconsciously, there is a narrative. There are stories that are on repeat in your own conscious mind as well as in your subconscious mind. There are narratives, there are stories, there are systems of belief that have been entrenched and established within your psyche that consciously and unconsciously began to not only dictate, but to form and shape your real life experience. Contrary to popular belief, you are not subject to fate. I know people say, oh, fate happens to everyone, coincidence and chance. There is no chance, coincidence, or fate that is in operation in your life. Everything that you have, are, and ever will experience is a result of what you are creating consciously and unconsciously for your life. You're not under attack. We had this conversation once before. You're not under attack by some demon or devil, Hank, witchcraft, or spell, voodoo, black magic. You're not under any generational curses, that is any kind of spiritual entity that is passed down from one generation to the next. You are not under the trap or the confines of different traumatic experiences that you may have had or endured or experienced in your life, but you are actively, let me repeat this again, you are actively, continuously, perpetually creating your reality and the experiences that you are having in this earth. Now, I know that for some of you, that's a really hard pill to swallow. That's like an alarm clock, a wake-up call. And it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean? You're not telling me that everything that's happening in my life is a result of my own creation, that I am the reason, that I am the genesis, the progenitor, I am the catalyst for all that's taking place. That's exactly what I'm telling you. Now, wait a minute, hold on. Before you start guilting yourself or before you start dismissing altogether, recognize that because you are the catalyst, because you are the progenitor, because you are the initiator, the originator, and the creator of the life experiences that you are having, it's not just negative. But that means that if you don't like what you're experiencing, what you're seeing, what you're encountering on a consistent basis, you have not only the authority, but the right and the responsibility to change it. If your life seems like a broken record that just keeps skipping and repeating the same loop, stuck in a time loop, in a warp that goes around in circles, then you and you alone are the only one that has the power and the responsibility to change your life. Contrary to popular belief, there is no abracadabra, hocus pocus. There is no magic formula, and there is no divine, supernatural, external influences or encounters that are going to come along and just poof, make your life magically better. I'm sorry to tell you, but happy to help you understand that no amount of a person laying hands on you and pouring oil on your head, no amount of speaking in tongues, rolling on the floor, spitting bubbles, jumping pews, hollering, screaming, decreeing, hollering, and falling out, no amount of any other kinds of hoover dust, snake oil, or frog juice that you might use is going to change your life. You can be bathed and dunked in olive oil until you fry chicken, bacon, fried fish. You can be lathered down and have folks speak over your life until you can rattle off and regurgitate everything that they say again and again like it's a spiritual mantra. But if you don't consciously make the decisions and the choices necessary to change your life, you will continue to repeat the same cycles again and again. That's why many of you in the Christian faith find yourself going from one conference to the next conference, paying all this money to travel across the state for hotels and food, buying all of the products and the books and everything else that the speakers have to offer. And yet, at the end of the day, your life substantially is no better now than it was before you attended all of those conferences. You've got stacks of books and workbooks and tapes and CDs and other paraphernalia that you have collected from different conferences. And yet they are just gathering dust on a shelf somewhere while you continue to live in the mundane cycle that you've always experienced. Oh, you were excited for a moment, had a zeal for what you heard, and you actively began to try and employ and apply the things that you kind of heard while you were at the conference or at the revival or at the symposium. But at the end of the day, you found yourself falling back into the same old patterns of behavior, and you're getting the same results. The very definition, ladies and gentlemen, of insanity is to continue to do the exact same things and then have an expectation for a different outcome. As I used to always say when I was pastoring the church, 1 + 1 will always equal 2. Doesn't matter how you slice it, how you turn it, whether you put the one on top and another one at the bottom, or you put them side by side, 1 + 1 will always equal 2. And when you put garbage in, you get garbage out. Are you hearing me? If what you have been doing all of these years of your life for 15, 16, 17, 20, 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 70 years of your life hasn't brought about the results that you have desired, then, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to change course. It's time for you to start investigating why this isn't working for me. Have you ever wondered why some of the most religious people in the world, whether their religion is Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism or Taoism or some other type of religion or ism, some of the most religious people in the world are also some of the most miserable people in the world. They seem to struggle more than anyone else does. They seem to always be going through difficulties, always facing challenges, and never seeming to really live in that abundant life that their particular religion promises to them. They're told in the Christian faith, I am come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly rather. And yet they find themselves living everything but abundance, or experiencing abundance sporadically here and there, little drizzles and drops of abundance, some highs and lows, good times, bad times, ups and downs, but never a consistent flow of abundance, an abundance of joy, an abundance of peace, an abundance of money, an abundance of health, an abundance of happiness, an abundance in their life that is overwhelming. There is specific reasons why these cycles continuously happen in your life. And no, it's not just life, it is the life that you have consciously or unconsciously created and continue to support that creation with your own thoughts and your own energy. So let's dig, shall we? That was kind of a long introduction to what we're getting into. But I promise you it's worth it. Let's dig in. I want to begin this particular conversation with a quote from my spiritual father, Apostle Curtis Lake Jr. He said something to me years ago that was so profound, but at the time that I heard it, it didn't seem that profound to me. As a matter of fact, it really didn't make sense to me. Here's what he said. He said, the greatest challenge you will ever face in ministry is to change the minds of people. The greatest challenge you will ever face in ministry is changing the minds of the people. When my spiritual father spoke these words to me, I was young and just getting out started and really trying to learn and beginning what my lifelong journey and driving force of my passion and my pursuit and my purpose would be. I had no idea at the time of the depth and the complexity of these salient words of wisdom. Nor did I fathom how personally poignant and relevant and revealing they would become in my own life, yet alone the lives of the people that I would be ministering to. I remember thinking when he told me, what is he talking about? I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I just want folk to get saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. Come on, y'all. That was my thought process at the time. I want people who were born in sin and full of iniquity on their way to hell, and their only hope was to come into this church, kneel at the altar, and be convincingly sorrowful for their sins so that God would forgive them and grant them entrance into heaven and protect them from the atrocities of hell. That was my entire mindset. That was what I thought ministry was all about. And so to hear him say the greatest challenge that you're going to face is changing the minds of people, it just didn't compute right then, but I never forgot it. And it played over and over in my head and piqued my curiosity and caused me to begin to dig and research. Over the years, now over some 45 years, I've come to realize just how brilliant he was and how profound that statement really, truly is. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we came into this three-dimensional form that we call human life. We came out of the mind or the ether or the isness of God. We existed in God as God prior to our incarnation, and then were released from the mind and mouth of God into three-dimensional form, or as Genesis puts it, and God breathed into the form the breath of life, and man became a living soul, or in the Hebrew, a living nephesh, or in the Greek, it says a living psyche, a conscious, aware being. Man became a consciously aware soul. But here is the thing. When we left out of the isness of God, we entered three-dimensional form. When you were formed in your mother's womb, you entered that form, your soul, your consciousness, fully knowing even as you are known, knowing all things, being all-knowing, being omniscient, because you were the divine individuation of God, God being placed in a human form to experience and express itself in this earth. And you came into this earth knowing. The problem is you were taught to believe. Let me say that again. You came into this earth fully knowing. The problem is you were then taught to believe. Most of what we believe, ladies and gentlemen, or have accepted as true is not the result of our own discovery or personal epiphany. Most of what we believe didn't even originate with us, and consequently, we're not even aware of, in most cases, why we believe what we believe. We don't really know why we believe it and what we believe and why we continue to behave and act in the way that we do and follow an edict or a system of beliefs. All we know is what we have been taught to believe. It was not your choice to speak English. You didn't choose your moral values or your perceptions of things or perspective of life and society. You never had the opportunity to even choose what to believe or what not to believe. You never chose even the smallest ideology, or even you didn't even choose your name. You didn't choose your religion. You didn't choose your culture, your environment. You didn't choose your surroundings. All you know is that as children, you were robbed of the opportunity to choose for yourself and given a set of ideas and beliefs that would become, rather, the substratum of your entire life. We simply agreed with the information handed down to us from the adults that were present in our life. We just accepted what they said as absolute truth because they were the authority figures in our life. That information that was given to us, ladies and gentlemen, this might surprise you, didn't originate with them. You see, even the adults that were in your life handing you these sets of beliefs and ideas, morals and values, well, they got their beliefs, ideas of morality and values handed down to them by the adults who were present in their life when they were children. And they experienced the same thing. And so on, and so on, and so on. And so it goes throughout the lineages of time, across every culture, heritage, every bloodline that exists, have been given an influential, ideal set of beliefs and values and morals that they were told are absolutely truth, without any investigation, without examination, without coming to this understanding on your own or some grand epiphany happening within you. You were told this is what is good and what is bad. This is what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. This is what's righteous. This is what's unrighteous. This is what's holy. This is what's unholy. This is what's fun and this isn't fun. This is pleasurable and this is painful. And this is how you should think about this, that, and the other thing. And this is how you should respond to these things and these external stimuli. Everything was heaped upon you, loaded into your conscious mind, and they piled up on top of the intuitive knowing and knowledge that you entered this world with. Remember, you entered the world straight out of the isness, the ether, the mind of God, with an omniscience that knew, not believed, but knew everything and was known of by the all of everything. You knew it all, and yet you were forced to forget what you came here knowing because you were taught to believe those things that were contrary to what you came here knowing. Did y'all hear what I'm saying? You have been taught to believe those things that are the complete antithesis of what you entered this three-dimensional plane of consciousness absolutely knowing and completely sure of. That's why when you were an infant and a child, you had no consciousness of sin or guilt or shame or embarrassment, right or wrong. In your mind, your right mind, your conscious mind, everything was good and pleasurable and ripe for curiosity and exploration and discovery. You were taught to be fearful and doubtful and to have guilt and shame. You were taught that this was good and this is bad. This is acceptable and this is unacceptable. You were taught this is how a man acts and this is how a woman acts. This is how those who are saved act and this is how those who are unsaved act. This is how Black people think, act, and move. This is how white people think, think, act, and move. This is how Indian or Asian people think, act, and move. And these external cultural, environmental, family, and religious influences begin to wallpaper and plaster over what you came here knowing and loaded you down with a whole load of disempowering beliefs that run contradictory to what you know. Yes, Sharon. Sharon says you were reprogrammed. Every single one of us went through reprogramming, initiating us into a life of entrenched ideas and theories and beliefs that are completely contradictory to what you have always known, and deep within your soul, loaded and coded in your DNA, that knowledge, that knowing is still there. But it is drowned out by the echoing sounds of the beliefs that were heaped upon you and you were force-fed to accept as true. I grew up in the early 60s and 70s, in a little small town called Gainesville, Florida. I was one of several children raised in the house with a mother who, for the most part, was a single mother because my father died when I was 3, and then my stepfather died when she remarried again, I think when I was like 7, but then about 7 years later, at 14, he died. And so she essentially raised us alone as a single mother. She was a domestic worker working in white people's kitchens and taking care of their children. I still remember the names of the people who she used to work for. And that was before my stepfather came along, who was a little more affluent and had his own service station. And she was able to leave that and just be concerned about taking care of the household. And from my recollection, my early recollection, we always seemed to have a lot of food to eat. I remember us taking trips up to Moultrie, Georgia, where my stepfather's family was from. And the person that we called Big Mama or Grandmama, his mother, lived on a farm, a ranch up there, along with all of his brothers and sisters who were gathered there. And they would slaughter animals like a hog or a cow, and we would bring home tons and tons of meat in that little brown station wagon and bring it back to Gainesville and put it in the freezer. We always seemed to have lots of food, and we had clothes that we could wear. And to our recollection, or from what I thought, were very nice, really nice clothes. Even the jeans that we had to put patches in because we'd rubbed a hole in, or the shoes that I would wear that used to belong to my brother, and then he outgrew and I grew into, and so on and so forth. We thought that we were pretty much dressed to the nines and looking pretty good. A lot of the kids would come to our house and hang out and play and, hang out in our yard. We had what we thought was a really big front yard, and kids would come and play in the yard and in the street dirt roads, and we play kickball and Mother May I and red light and all these other kinds of games. Kids don't play outside anymore. But we went outside, okay, and we played. And so a lot of the kids in my neighborhood that were around us, and because my father had been a very prominent preacher and pastor in the city, a lot of people knew our family. He had pastored several churches and founded one big church there, and it was pretty big name. And so a lot of people know us. And so a lot of the people and a lot of the kids in our neighborhood thought that we were a wealthy family. Well, heck, I thought for a long time that we were a rich family. I thought we were rich as well. Because to me, in my world, what I could see and what I was experiencing, we were living pretty freaking good. Everything around me seemed financially stable, and we had more than enough. So my belief system and resulting truth was, we wealthy. I believed that for a number of years until I got older. I was almost an adult before I recognized that, no, we were really poor. We may not have been as poor as some of the other families on our street, but we were poor. My point is, though, that the idea that I was given by my mother was that we were fine, we were blessed, and by all that I could see, and the interpretation given to me was, we were wealthy. I didn't know we were poor until I was almost grown. And so, consequently, I acted like we were wealthy. I moved like we were wealthy. I thought like we were wealthy. Okay? We weren't like white folk wealthy. But, we were taught and thought and believed that that was unattainable. You couldn't be white folk wealthy, but we were black folk wealthy. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Come on. Okay? And so I acted, thought, and moved in alignment with that conscious ideology because that is what I had been told. You see, I told that story for this purpose. Whether the information you were given was accurate or inaccurate does not matter when it comes down to formulating your belief system. Let me say that again. Whether the information you were given by your family, your culture, your religion, your experiences, and your interpretation thereof was accurate or inaccurate, it doesn't even matter when it comes to formulating what your belief system is going to be. It only mattered what you believed to be true. And whatever you believed to be true shaped your reality. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? Ladies and gentlemen, whether the information you are receiving, this is why it's so hard. Lord, I just like took a different direction right in the middle of a sentence. Okay, let me finish the first sentence first. Whether the information you are given by your culture, environment, your religion, your experiences was accurate or inaccurate is immaterial. When it comes down to formulating your belief system, it only matters what you believed to be true. Now I'll go to the other sentence. This is the reason why it's so difficult for people to uproot deeply entrenched ideas and beliefs that didn't even originate with them. Because that idea or belief has become so internalized and so ingrained and entrenched within their conscious mind, they actually began to think it's their own idea. Lord have mercy. Yeah, yes. There are things that you have held on to for years that you have embraced as your truth, that this is the absolute valid truth. You can't make me doubt it. I know too much about it. This is definitely true. That didn't even originate with you. It didn't start with you. It didn't emerge from within you. It's no great epiphany or discovery or uncovering, revealing, or revelation that you had. It is an idea, a seed of a thought that was planted in you and watered over time, being reinforced by repetition. And it is so entrenched in your conscious mind, you begin to think that you came up with that idea. And what is even more detrimental is that you begin to identify with the belief. You allow the belief to begin to define who you are. There's a certain meaning and definition behind when you say, I'm using my name, you use yours. I'm a Miles. Well, what does that mean to you? What it means to you is what it has come to mean by what you have been taught, told, and indoctrinated, domesticated into thinking that means. That is your truth. It didn't originate with you. It originated with other people who influenced you and told you this is what it means to be a Miles or a Johnson or a Robinson or a Williams. And yet you identify yourself with that definition and that ideology. True or not, you really don't even consider, you never even examine, you never investigate. You accept it because through the act of repetition, it has become your truth and it informs your actions and your lived experience. You identify, you take on what is supposed to have been an experience and begin to make it an identity. Woo, goodness. Let me say that again. And I haven't even gotten to it. You hadn't said the full thing that I'm talking about, but I think you can guess. You take on what was meant to be an experience, a tool, a conduit that you're able to use, and instead you make it an identity, your religion. Your religion was meant to be a tool, a conduit, a vessel, a vehicle that would reconnect you to your own divinity. Instead, you take on the vestiges of religion, whatever that religious ideology is, and make it your identity. You're no longer the divine being. You're no longer a reflection of God. You are now a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Taoist, a Jew, are you hearing what I'm saying? And what was meant to be a vehicle, a tool, what was meant to just be a conduit to connect you with who you really are, now becomes the entirety of your identity. And so you label yourself based upon the tool. I want you to think about that for a minute. I want you to think about the ridiculousness of it all. How many of you have ever in your life used a hammer? For whatever the reason was, to hang a picture, to fix a shelf that was broken, to build something. How many of you have ever used a hammer? How many of you, after using the hammer, started calling yourself a hammer? So how many of you started calling yourself a hammer? You used a saw, and from that point on, you started calling yourself a saw. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But that is exactly what people have done with religion, environment, and culture. You pick up the tool of religion, use it. If you use it properly, it reconnects you to your divinity. It turns you inward to your divine self to discover the God in you, through you, and as you. But instead, because of these religions being saturated and inundated with manipulation and control and ways of entrenching you in the idea of dynasty and exclusiveness, instead of you being connected to who you really are, you begin to call yourself by the name of the tool. Now you're a Christian. Now you're a Muslim. Now you're a Jew. Now you're a Buddhist. Now you're a Hindu. Now you're a Taoist. Now you're a Krishna. Even further, breakdowns in each of them. I'm a traditional Muslim, a Shiite Muslim. I'm a Baptist, a Methodist, Pentecostal Christian. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Further and further entrenching you into a abyss that takes you further away from your identity. And as a result of this, you began to create a narrative and a story about your life. Not an original story, not a story that initiated with you, that emerged from within, not the result of your own discovery, epiphany, uncovering revelation, but you begin to write a story about your life, about who you are, based upon this false identity that you've taken on, that was given to you by the environment, culture, religion, and experiences that you've had in this life. And so you begin to write a story, a narrative. You write a play, a movie script, a screenplay, if you will, that becomes the reality of your life and the basis upon which you live every day. You create an illusionary world, a fantasy, a dream that's not fixed, that's not based in tangibility, but an idea, an illusion, a delusion, if you will, that becomes the substratum of your entire life and lived experience. And you are living in that dream. And that dream, depending upon the origins and depending upon how you dream the dream, in many cases becomes a nightmare. And you get stuck in a loop on replay in the same nightmarish horror film that's playing in the theater of your mind. The stories we tell ourselves are powerful narratives that shape our reality, our perception, and ultimately our behavior. These internal dialogues are influenced by the spiritual and philosophical teachings across various traditions, our cultures, our environment, our religion, our traumas. And there are these various influences begin to shape how we think about ourselves and inform the story, the dialogue, and the narratives that we tell ourselves. In Buddhism, the concept of right view emphasizes the importance of understanding the nature of reality, which includes recognizing the influence of our thoughts and perceptions upon our experiences. They call it Bodhi. In Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita speaks of the power of self-perception and the mind's role in shaping one's reality, urging every individual to transcend their own egoic way of thinking and align with their truest and highest self. Of course, in Christianity, the teaching highlights the significance of this inner narrative as well. In Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7, it says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." The suggestion from this particular proverb says that our beliefs and thoughts directly influence our being and our actions. This aligns with the modern psychological insights that our self-talk can reinforce either positive or negative behaviors and perception. Think about what that text is saying. In every religious ideology, there is this knowledge, this principle, this truth that our thoughts, our perceptions, our beliefs shape our reality. They shape our reality. Our deeply entrenched thoughts, the narratives and stories that we tell ourselves, the self-dialogue that we carry on repeat and on a loop within our conscious mind, they inform our thoughts, our perceptions, our perspective, our words, our language, and ultimately our behavior. And when you string together your thoughts, perceptions, your language, words, and actions in perfect alignment, that is the power of creation. And that is what creates your reality. Your reality that you are experiencing uniquely in your life is the result of a creation that has its genesis with the stories that you continually tell yourself. In Sufi mysticism, it emphasizes the importance of purifying one's thoughts to align with their divine truth, with the divine knowing that you enter this three-dimensional plane with. The poet Rumi often explores the idea of our inner narrative and how it can either connect us or it can distance us from our divine self. What we tell ourselves, what we accept as our dominant truth is very, vitally important to the lived experiences that we have in the earth. All of these spiritual texts collectively illustrate that the stories we construct in our mind can either limit us or they can liberate us. Let me say that again, that the stories, the narratives that we create and construct within our conscious mind will either liberate us or they will limit us. By consciously shaping these narratives, we can alter, by consciously shaping these narratives, intentionally, deliberately taking the actions to shape and reshape, reform these narratives and stories, we can change our perception and thereby change our words, language, change our actions, and change our reality. This is the reason that the principle is outlined in Romans chapter 12, where he says to us that we are not to be conformed to this world way of thinking. That is the general way of thinking that has been given to us, that has its origins in some far away place that has nothing to do with your truest and highest nature. Be not conformed to this carnal, fleshly, humanistic, egoistic way of thinking, but be transformed, the Greek word metamorphi, from which we get the word metamorphosis, to be taken from one state of being and existing to a higher state of being and existing by the anakinosis is the word that's used in the Greek, by the renewing of your mind, by the anakinosis, by having your mind affected, not just affected, but effected by the divine spirit emerging within you. That is the true definition of who you are. That is a divine principle. It is a divine principle that I really need for you to grasp. Don't be conformed or reshaped or made into the image of the ideas that have been implanted and entrenched in your mind. Don't follow the rule book, the guidelines, the dogma, the legalism given to you by your church, your synagogue, your mosque, or your temple, or by your culture, your family, your environment, or society at large. You have to discover the beat of your own drum, the rhythm of your own soul, the sound of your own spirit resounding within you, trying to emerge from beneath all of the gobbledygook and garbage that's been piled on you for decades in your life. Don't be reshaped and conformed to those things, but be transformed, taken from glory to glory, from faith to faith, from one divine experience and existence to a higher level of divine experience and existence, from one understanding to a higher understanding, from one glorious experience to a higher glorious experience, by the anakinosis, by allowing that which has always been loaded and coded within your DNA, which has always been a part of your innermost being, to emerge and begin to spill over and pierce the darkness of your soul and go into every corner, crack, and crevice and bring the illuminating light of who you really are. Are you hearing me? Are you catching what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Is it making sense to you? Y'all talk back to me in the comments. I want to know that I'm being impactful. I want to know that you're really grasping the truth of what I'm saying to you. There's a book that I recommend to everyone called The Four Agreements. It's written by Don Miguel Ruiz. In this book, he discusses the concept of assumptions in the context of those four agreements. This is the third. Don't make assumptions. I want you to catch this. Don't make assumptions. He explains that making assumptions can lead to misunderstandings, conflict, and unnecessary suffering. When we make assumptions, when we just assume something to be true based upon the set of beliefs and ideologies that we have been given, or because of our colored lens that we look through, shaded by those entrenched ideologies and beliefs, we begin to see the rest of the world and people, and we make assumptions based upon that color, that shading, that entrenchment, those ideologies and beliefs. He asserts that when we assume, we often believe our assumptions are true without even verifying the facts, which can distort our perception of reality and create an experience that does not align with the truth, but aligns with our truth. Ruiz emphasizes that assumptions typically arise from our need to make sense of the world quickly around us, often filling in the gaps with what we think is our own knowledge and our own interpretation, but are really based upon the entrenched ideologies that were given to us by our parents and people in authority. And so we begin to interpret through that lens and make decisions based upon what we have been told is true and we have accepted as our dominant thought. So, for example, we might assume others see the world in the same way that we do, or very similarly at least, or that they know what we are, people know what we are thinking and what we are feeling. This often results in miscommunication, disappointment, when reality does not align with your expectation. And so you find yourself suffering heartbreak, disappointment, pain, trauma, all because you have an expectation that is set by an assumption that is based in a reality, a truth, an ideology that was adopted by someone from someone else who adopted it from someone else, who adopted it from someone else, and so on and so on, that didn't originate from you and was ultimately destined to fail. And so you have created this cycle of pain and suffering and poverty and disappointment and guilt and shame and all of these other disempowering feelings and ideas, not because of a devil or a demon or a witch, but because of your own mind. I am in the middle of writing a book that I have been working on for years now called Thought Wars. The war with, for, and of the mind. This internal battle that each of us have to fight and struggle with our own mind. You see, there is an innate divinity and goodness that is in every human being. You came here directly out of the mind and isness of God as a good representation of God. Good, righteous, holy, pure, upright, moral, valuable. You were taught to believe those things that were contrary. That began the conflict and the war within your conscious mind. Because what you were taught to believe didn't align with what you knew was true. You came here knowing the truth, and you were taught something that was antithetical to that truth, and it created this conflict within you. And so now you begin to divorce yourself from your genuine, authentic self, your truth, and marry yourself to a concept of truth that's actually based in a lie. Woo! And so you take the truth of God and turn it into a lie. And it creates this internal conflict that Paul illustrates in his writing in Romans chapter 6, where he says, when I would do good, evil is present with me. He wasn't talking about a demon, a devil, or people around him, or entities floating. He was talking about the internal conflict that he was having inside of him. He describes it explicitly by saying, the very thing that I say I'm going to do, I end up not doing. And the very thing that I say I'm not going to do is what I end up doing. Wretched man am I, who will deliver me, not from an entity or a demon or a spirit or a witch or a hex or a spell? Who will deliver me, he says, from this body of error, this inner conflict, this inner turmoil, this inner fight that's going on in my mind. In my mind, there is this conflict. My divinity speaks, but then my carnality speaks. My divinity says, this is you, this is your identity, this is your path, this is your passion, this is your purpose. And then all of the teachings and beliefs tell me, no, it's not. This is who you are. You are identified with this belief, this ideology, this path, and anything outside of that is the devil, is wrong, is demonic, is not from God. And so you are constrained and confined by those beliefs, but inwardly you are suffering. How many times have you found yourself trying to follow your particular religion's ideologies, concepts, beliefs, dogma, doctrine, but deep down inside, it didn't feel right. It didn't sit right with you. You did it because you wanted to be obedient, but it didn't sit right with you. You're following the instruction of that particular spiritual leader, whether they're a bishop, apostle, a prophet, pastor, teacher, imam, guru, shaman, rabbi, whoever they might be. You did it because that's what you were taught to accept, and you wanted to be obedient. You didn't want to appear as rebellious, because they told you that rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. I don't want to be no witch. So I don't want to appear rebellious. So I'm just going to go along to get along. But deep down in the corner and crevices of your soul, it didn't feel right. It felt off. It felt alien. It felt like this doesn't line up with me. This doesn't agree with me. But you forced yourself into alignment so you could remain a part of the social club. So people wouldn't think of you adversely. So you could gain the favor of the religious organization and maybe even move up in the ranks because you were obedient like a good little puppy and followed all the rules. Oh, did he just call me a trained animal? I did. Domesticated. Don't be offended. I was too. Trained animal. Trained little puppy. Following the rules. Even when they didn't fit right with me, even when they didn't make sense to me, even when it seemed to be contradictory to everything within me. I knew my secret thoughts, my secret desires, my secret yearnings. I knew what was my passion, what was my purpose, but it didn't seem to align with what the social club, the religious construct told me was acceptable, what society, or what the culture said was a part of that particular thing. And so in order to remain a part of the club, I create a narrative within my own head that tells me I got to do this, I got to follow this, and this is who I am. And like a trained seal, I react. When they read the Torah, I respond. Oh. When they give out the chant, I respond. The Lord be with you and with you also. When they hit the organ, Yay! Oh, help! Ah. Like a trained seal, I did what I was trained to do. Even though the after effect was null and void. Nothing changed. Nothing got better. I felt a little better because of the exercise and the expression of emotion, but it didn't change anything in my life. By the time you get through with this praise, by the time you get through dancing, oh, brother so-and-so, if you're praising right now, God's going to shift everything in your household. And you got home and everything was exactly as it was when you left it. Oh, I know I'm talking to some people right now. I know it. You don't want to admit it. I know you can't tell this out in open. You can't testify about it because then you'll be ostracized, criticized, and marginalized. But come on. You did all that. You ran around the building. You turned around 7 times. You took 4 steps forward and 4 steps backwards. You slapped your neighbor high five. You hit them on the head. You nudged them on the side. You shook their hand like you were going to shake it off and told them those words. And then not a darn thing changed. I know you can't say amen in the comments because, you know, then the people around you might see it and the folk from your church might see it, so you can't say nothing. But just say amen inwardly because you know I'm telling the truth. You done fell out, spit bubbles, jumped over pews, rolled over, spoke in tongues, different tongues, all kinds of tongues. You done made up a whole nother language and it just sweated out your clothes, tattered and torn, rolled over, lost it all. And then still, when it was over, after they got through pouring the oil over your head, out of the shofar, out of that ram's horn onto your head, and slapped the mantle around your shoulder and smacked you and pushed you down and you rolled or charged you up. And knocked you down. Ain't nothing changed. Ain't a doggone thing changed. You still in the same position. Because all they wanted was hype. And all you've experienced is the hype. What I'm trying to give you today are the tools to orchestrate real, authentic, and permanent change in your life. Starts right here with the stories that you tell yourself. So, write this down. Oh man, I didn't realize it's been on this long. Okay, just hang with me. If you got to go, I understand, but hang with me. Write this down. What informs your faith is what it will determine your reality. What informs your faith, that is your truth, what you have accepted to be true, is what will form and shape your reality. And what informs your faith is dependent upon what you have continuously heard. There is another Bible principle. It's not just in the Bible, it's also in the Quran and it's also in the Bhagavad Gita. That what we accept as our dominant thought, as our dominant truth, or what we creates and activates our faith is determined by what we hear. Faith comes by hearing, it says in Romans 10 and 17. Faith comes by hearing. And the way that it's written actually in the Bible is written in the aorist dominant, passive rather, tense, which means that it is a repetition. It is repetitive. So faith comes by what we hear and hear and hear and hear and hear. In other words, faith is activated by what we continuously hear repeated over and over in our mind that has been reinforced in our thoughts. The actual word here in Greek is the word ekion, from which we get the word echo. So it is saying then, faith is activated and put in motion by what we continuously hear echoing within our conscious mind. How many times have you even caught yourself thinking thoughts that weren't your thoughts? They were your mama's thoughts, your daddy's thoughts, your grandmama's thought, your preacher's thought, your pastor's thought, your mentor's thought, your guru's thought, your rabbi's thought, your shaman's thought, your life coach's thought, a thought from TV, a thought from a magazine, a thought from a book. They weren't your thoughts. You weren't the ones, you were just the one that was hearing the thought, but the thought didn't originate with you. But it echoes, and you can hear that echoing going on in your head. Don't you do this? Don't you do that? You should do this. You should do that. If you want to be holy, if you want to be saved, if you want to be righteous, if you want to be elevated, if you want to succeed, if you want to be happy, if you want to have a man, if you want to have a woman, if you want to be this, if you want that, if you want this, all of these voices continuously echoing in your mind. You haven't had an original thought in years. You are just listening to the echo, and the echo is what informs your faith. It informs your dominant thought. It informs your truth. It may not be the truth, but it becomes your truth. Are you hearing me? So whatever it is that you have continuously heard is what activates and interacts with your faith. We all have faith. Everybody has faith. You don't have to be a certain religious ideology or concept in order to have faith. We all have faith. We all have a dominant truth, or dominant truths that abide within our conscious mind. We all have faith. Okay. And that faith then informs our expectations, and it informs our anticipations. It is based in our beliefs, whether those beliefs are founded in the truth or not. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And that faith then is set in motion and interacts with what it is that you have consistently heard again and again. What is it that you've been told all your life, and you have consciously, and in some cases unconsciously, accepted to be true about you, and so you move from that space. You are motivated from that space. You've been told that you were ugly, or that you were dumb, or that you were stupid, or that you were slow, or that you were fast, or that you were a thug, or that you are evil, or that you were, watch this, a sinner. How can you expect anyone to do anything but sin when all you've ever told them is that they are a sinner, that their identity is sinner? You are sinful and unrighteous. You was born in sin and shapen in iniquity. Ain't nothing good about you. All of your righteousness is as filthy rag. You filthy, disgusting, and stuck in the mire, and the muck, and the mire, and the clay. You are on your way to hell. Handcuffs of hell on your hands, and the shackles of damnation are on your feet. You won't have no hope, but God loves you. You hear how ridiculous that is? And then you have this unrealistic expectation that people are going to behave in a different manner because you keep reinforcing how messed up, nasty, disgusting, and sinful that they are. If that is all you've been told and that is all that you know, then you start to unconsciously live out the reality of what you have accepted about yourself to be true. And so you start calling yourself that. Well, you know I'm a sinner. I ain't saved. I ain't saint. I don't know God. I don't claim to be right with God. I don't claim to know God. I don't claim to have a relationship with God. I know I'm a sinner. I know I ain't right. I know I ain't saved. I know I'm unholy. I know I'm going to hell. How stupid. But that is the programming handed to you by religion. And that informs your faith. And here's the thing that most people don't seem to grasp. Faith is impartial. Faith is impersonal. Faith is just a spiritual mechanism, tool, a vehicle that brings about the reality of your accepted truth or belief, whatever that truth or belief is. Here's what the scripture that you love to quote all the time actually means. It says it. Hebrews chapter 1 and verse 1. Chapter 11, verse 1. Faith, pistis, that which you have accepted as true, the infallible truth of your mindset, your belief, is the substance. That word substance means the essence or the power, the foundation of the things that you hope for. That is, the things that you have developed an expectation of. You're anticipating this. Faith, its only job is to support, to give power, energy, essence, and support, to be the foundation or the substratum, the expectations that you hold. And those expectations are based upon what you believe to be true. You see, Hebrews 11 and 1 does not define faith. It defines what faith does. It supports your expectation and is the evidence. It provides you infallible proof, tangible reality, tangible proof that what you have accepted as your truth really does exist. It has no choice but to support your expectation and give you tangible, real truth, proof rather, that what you believe to be true really does exist. And so you believe that you are a failure, and faith has no choice. It has no choice but to support the idea of you being a failure and give you tangible proof that you fail. See, I failed again. See, me and relationships don't work. I can't maintain a good, healthy relationship. And so faith then has no choice but to support your truth, your belief, your ideology, your mindset, and then give you encounters and situations and circumstances and relationships that reinforce your truth, which is, I can't have a healthy relationship. And so you go from one bad relationship to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and you see that as proof that your truth, your theory, your concept, well, that's the truth. See, here's the living proof. I've had 15 relationships and none of them have been healthy. None of them have been successful. So I'm just not cut out. Are you hearing what I'm saying? You act and respond the way that you do because that's what you have been taught. It's the narrative. It's the story that you have written in your own mind. And you keep reiterating that story, regurgitating it, telling yourself that you can't and you will and you won't. And are you hearing what I'm saying? That you're not smart enough, you're not strong enough, you don't have enough money, that you're broke and you're poor and you're needy, and I'm always struggling, and everything around you reinforces that ideology. Church reinforces your struggle. Everything in the church they tell you is about you going through and suffering and having haters and devil on your track and trying to turn you back, and you're a hunted and a wanted man, and you ain't this and you ain't right, you ain't holy. Every gospel song is a struggle song, and I once was lost in sin, but Jesus took me in, and I was up and then sometime down and sometime level to the ground. And I'm climbing up the rough side of the mountain, and my heart is broken, and I'm disappointed, and I was lost in sin, couldn't see my way, and love is the only thing that lifted me. I was miserable and ungood and unkind and terrible, and I was the worst wretch undone. But the amazing grace. And so your faith then has no choice but to give you solid, tangible proof that your ideas about yourself are absolutely true. And you turn your actual truth into an actual lie, and the lie becomes your truth. Woo! And so many of you that are listening to me right now are living a truthful lie. That's good right there. Man, that's good. You are living a truthful lie. It is your truth, but it is based upon a lie. Did you hear what I said? It is based on, and that's causing your internal conflict. That's causing your fight within. That's why you keep having these desires for same gender loving relationships, but you have to keep telling yourself no, because that ain't right. That ain't godly. That ain't from the Lord. That's a devil. That's a demon. No. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you? And so you suppress and repress your sensuality, your sexuality, rebuke and bind and get prayed over and oil poured on your head and refrain from. And you think that will be the end of it. And for the people on the outside, it is. But internally, you are still struggling and fighting because who you are is still there. Yet you have been convinced by the people externally that who you are is wrong. You have sexual desires and yearnings and longings that the church and religion and everybody around you told you they are wrong. You ain't supposed to be craving. That's a spirit of lust. That's ungodly. That's an old pervert spirit. But then it came from God, because your sexuality, your sensuality is a part of your divine being. You didn't create it yourself. Good God have mercy. I said you didn't create it yourself. It came loaded and coded into your DNA. It is a natural part of your development. You're supposed to have sexual desires and sexual yearnings and longings. But you've been told a truthful lie that had you believing that's the devil, that's a demon, that's ungodly, that's a spirit, and you need to bind and rebuke and cast down and fight. And so you have this internal wrestle going on inside of you, and you create doorways, passages, and outlets for you to be able to express it in the dark, in the hidden places, and tipping, dipping, and y'all ain't saying nothing now. Come on around here. Come on, because church folk especially, they're the most demonstrative when it comes to talking about refraining from sex, and yet they're the most sexually active people on the planet. All them long dresses and they still getting pregnant. All them dollies on their head and they still getting pregnant. Y'all ain't gonna holler back at me. Come on here. All them, yes, having abortions, getting STDs, and going and getting treatment secretly because you don't need the church to find out about it. It's spitting and hollering and God said, be holy and be righteous. And you got 5 girlfriends sitting in the audience right now, and you trying to figure out which one you're going to get with after church. Yeah. All because you were told a truthful lie that told you you're supposed to deny all that. You're not supposed to feel all that. And if you're feeling that, that's a demon. You need to cast it out and bring that flesh under subjection. Can you tell I grew up in this? Can you tell? Because I know all the phrases. I know all the little cliches and the catchphrase. I know them all. But I also know the reality because I've been on the inside, on the other side. So I know what all the preachers are doing, male and female. Yes, your preacher too. Not my pastor, use a lie. Oh God, I know I just upset some folks. They just look, my numbers just went down. It's like, nope, you're not going to talk about my pastor. You're not going to talk about my pastor, not my man of God, not my woman of God. Yes. Yes. Absolutely yours. Okay? They're either doing it or they so repressed that they mean and hateful and nasty and going off on everybody and always rebuking everybody and arrogant and egotistical and narcissistic because they haven't been laid in God knows how long. They got all that pent up energy, and so they just mean for no reason. All right, let me keep going. Let me keep going because I know this is too much. Okay? This is too much. I know it is. So let me ask you, what are the voices that are on repeat in your head? What is the narrative that you are telling yourself? What are the things the story that you keep writing in your head? Listen to me. You are the author, the producer, the writer, and the star of your own story. You get to write the script. You get to edit it at any time you choose to change your lived experience. You get to edit it. You are the pen, and you are the one holding the pen, and you are the writer. You get to go and cross out whatever you want to cross out and make an addition or make an edit to it so that you are able to shift your story and shift your lived experience. Because come on, can we just be real for 1 second? Let me just talk to some of you who grew up in the church like I did. All the stuff that they told you was going to happen to you if you did this, that, and the other, and you did it anyway, and none of that stuff happened. None of that stuff happened. None of it happened. And yet you still feel yourself tied and tethered to the ideology and those stern prophetic warnings. The Lord say, if you do this, then, this gonna happen, this gonna happen. I've been hearing prophets prophesying about people dropping dead in the church for years. There ain't nobody dropping dead unless they got heart issues or some other kind of medical condition going on with them. They ain't dropping dead because they went and got a little nookie. They're not dropping dead because they didn't tithe. They're not dropping dead because they lied to the Holy Ghost. It didn't happen. Hasn't happened. Folk been lying to you, lying to your pastor, and your pastor been lying to you too, and they ain't dropped dead. So at some point, it should click that, that's some bullshit. This is not happening. This isn't true. It's not true because it's based on an assumption that's not based on reality. Come on now. Come on. Okay, because if all of that was true, Donald Trump should have been dead a long time ago. Lord, okay. I don't want to get political. But I'm just saying, the man should have been dead a long time ago. He ought to be good and dead right about now. Okay. Oh, my friend on here, Bishop. Yeah, Bishop say you making God into a mafia killer. Let me put it on. He said, y'all Negroes around here making God into a hitman, a mafia killer. You done turned him into, Jimmy the Bull. Elliot Ness. No. Okay, none of that is true. What are these stories that are on repeat in your own head? What are the narratives that are repeated? And some of you, your worst enemy is your own imagination. Your imagination that is informed by truthful lies and assumptions. And so you don't talk, you don't communicate, you just assume. And you write these whole stories in your head about what you assume to be true and how you assume people think, how they view you, what they're saying, what their behaviors, what their motives are, what's going on with them. You, instead of having a conversation, instead of just getting down to the real nitty-gritty and having an open and honest dialogue and exchange, you just write a story in your head and then you assume that your story is the truth. And then you behave accordingly, watch this, to the point where you punish the other person for things that they have no clue about. Because it's a story that you told yourself in your own head. And so you are acting and behaving in a way toward them that they're trying to figure out, what the hell is wrong with you? Where did that come from? Well, why are you dealing with me like that? Well, what is this? But they have no idea that you have written a story in your own head about them, about the situation, about the circumstance, and that you've made that your truth, and you are living out that play, that story, that narrative in real time and causing everybody around you to be confused. Like, what is going on with them? But you don't know the story that's on repeat in their head. Are you hearing me? That's the damnableness of gossip, hearsay, and judgment. People will hear gossip and rumor and innuendo about you, and then they begin to record a narrative in that they have never even met you, never shook your hand, never had a conversation with you, but they have a written narrative in their mind about who you are. And so when they do encounter you, they act in a certain way, they perceive you a certain way, they interact with you a certain way, or don't interact with you because of the narrative that's in their head. You're like, why are they acting so funny? You don't know the story that they're telling themselves. I'm telling you, this conversation is so deep. It has so many layers to it. You don't know the story that they're telling themselves. And here's the other part, ladies and gentlemen. Here's another part. I got to come to an end. Greg did it. So much more in this. Maybe I'll continue this in the partner portal with the partners. And if you want to participate, you need to become a partner with Emerge so that you're able to come into the portal and participate in this conversation, because I'm telling you, there's so much more. So much more. Whew. So you don't know the narrative that's playing out in their head about you. And so they are making decisions about you that involve you, that affect you, that you have no clue of, because you don't know the story that's going on in their head. And here's the other insidious part of it. It's all insidious, but this is even more insidious. Okay? Because you don't know the story or the dialogue or the narrative that's going on in a person's head, then when you look upon them and their actions and listen to their conversations and their behaviors you observe, you may make a judgment about them based upon what you think that you see. When in fact, you're just seeing them act out a part in the story that they're telling themselves in their own head, and you are interpreting their story by the story that you're telling yourself. Did you get that? Everybody's got their own narrative that's being played out in their head and lived out in their life. And so you are all now looking through the lens of your own narrative, interpreting the lived life of another while they are interpreting yours through their lens. Is it no wonder then that we are told and admonished and encouraged not to judge so that you be not judged? Because with the same measure you meet shall be measured unto you again. Is there any wonder that the principle is espoused in Philippians, that whatever things are good and pure and of good report and lovely and beautiful and kind and brilliant, think on these things? To always anticipate and expect the best, believe the best. I know what Maya said. I know what she said. I understand her point. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I understand. It's a very poignant quote. I've used that quote myself. But when I started to really think about this, I also understand that every one of us has our own narrative, our own story, our own dialogue that we are writing within our own mind. But each of us also are the writers, producers, and the star of that script that's being written. And so that means each of us can edit our script at any moment. And so while someone may show you this today, they may rewrite their script that same day and be something different tomorrow. Maybe this is the reason why when the disciple is purported to have asked Jesus, how many times should I forgive my brother in a day? 7. And he says, no, 7 times 70, being extraordinary and overwhelming, giving an allegory of you forgive as many times as necessary, he's saying, because everyone is constantly shifting and changing and rewriting their script. Come on, let that saturate, let that sizzle in your spirit. Country right here. Let that marinate, let that sizzle in your spirit for a while. Everybody likes to think that you're capable of change, but we don't give that same grace and thought to anyone else. But if you can change, they can change too. If you can be better, they can be better. If you're not the same person when it happened that you were when it happened, maybe they're not the same person either. Because each of us are rewriting our script every day to include different things and people and places that we encounter into it as our thoughts and minds shift, as the story evolves, unfolds, and changes. One of my favorite quotes in the entire world is written by Tillich that says, "The man that knows God does not outgrow God, but God causes him to outgrow his immature views of God. Thus, God remains God while changing in the mind of the growing person." He essentially says in this particular quote that our concept and idea of God changes consistently. It's not that God is changing, it's just our view and concept and understanding of God changes. Thus, it causes us to view God differently, and God changes in our mind, but God itself never really changed. It's just our view that changed. Well, the same that's true of God is true of the God in flesh, with every individuation of God. The man that really understands and knows humanity does not outgrow humanity or humans or people or persons, but they outgrow their immature views of people. And so, therefore, they then, the persons and people seem to change, but they remain the same while changing in the mind of the growing person. It's the narrative that we tell ourselves. It's the conversations and stories that we have in our head. It's the realities that we are creating as a result of the thoughts that we are having in our head. One more law, I'm done. Here is a law. Those who've been following me for a while, you've heard this law 100 million times. Those of you who are new and being initiated, this is going to be one that you need to write down in your books. This is the law. Unbreakable, immutable, unfailing law. You ready? Your outer world of form and experience is a reflection of your inner world of thought and feelings. Whew. I'm going to say it again so you can write it down. Your outer world of form and experience is a reflection of your inner world of thoughts and feelings. The universe, the kingdom of God, the spirit world, whatever terminology you want to use to describe it, is like a giant copy machine that takes what originates with you, the original, and prints out multiple copies and hands it back to you. Here are your thoughts. Here are your feelings. Here are your intentions. Here is a visible representation of what you believe to be true. That's a law. Unbreakable, immutable, unchanging, consistent, perpetual law. So, again, wouldn't be a good doctor if I gave you this huge diagnosis and didn't offer a cure. So I want to close this empowerment session the way we closed it last week. I want you to find a comfortable place wherever you are, whether you're sitting, if you're in the car, pull over for a second. Won't take long. If you're at home, find a comfortable place where you can sit, lie down, stand, whatever makes you comfortable, and close your eyes and do this mindful meditation with me. Just repeat these words of affirmation that I'm going to say. Repeat them and let them resonate and resound within you. That will begin you on your journey toward being transformed by the renewing of your mind. I'm going to play music in the background very softly, just to help you to focus and to concentrate. But I want you to listen and repeat the words that I say. Are you seated? Are you focused? Are you comfortable? Let's begin by taking a couple of deep breaths in. Hold them until I tell you to release. With every release, you will feel the emergence of spirit within you and the power and energy within you beginning to circulate throughout your entire body. Deep breath in. And release. Feel that emerging spirit circulating, pulsating. Embrace that feeling. Don't resist it. Relax and just let it flow through you. Deep breath in. Release. Now say, I am the master of my thoughts. I am shaping my reality with clarity, intention, and purpose. I release negative assumptions and seek understanding through clear communication. My mind is calm and focused, free from distracting narratives. I am intentional with my thoughts and aligning them with my highest self. I let go of judgments and embrace a peaceful mind. My thoughts are filled with positivity and light. And I actively dispel all darkness. I love myself unconditionally. I am consciously aware of my inner dialogues and choose compassion and understanding. My mind is a garden of serenity, free from the weeds of negativity. I embrace mindfulness, living fully in the present moment. Deep breath in. And release. Now say, I quiet my mind through this mindful meditation. I control my mind, not letting it control me. I am free from the bondage of negative thoughts. My thoughts are harmonious and aligned with my core values. I let go of fear and doubt and embrace faith and confidence. I replace every negative narrative with an empowering belief. My mind is filled with tranquil thoughts that nurture my soul. And I practice gratitude, focusing on the abundance in my life. Deep breath in. And release. Now say, I am mindful of my thoughts. And I am choosing those thoughts that uplift and inspire. I embrace my weaknesses and my faults, and I see them as steps toward self-improvement and evolution. My thoughts are centered in love and compassion. I am the essence of love personified. I am at peace with my past, present, and future. I cultivate a mind of stillness, clarity, and determination through daily practice. I challenge and transform negative thoughts into positive affirmations and behavior. And my mind is a sanctuary of peace, free from turmoil and unrest. Deep, extended breath. And release. Embrace that flow and feel of spirit emerging and circulating. Hold on to it and see yourself shifting, changing, expanding, growing. Amen. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so very much for joining me for this empowerment session. I know that you were informed, enlightened, and empowered by all of what you heard today. I want to give you an opportunity to support this platform with your gifts of love and appreciation. When you do so, you help us to continue to expand and build upon the platform to reach more people. No gimmicks, no games, no trying to get over. We just simply want to be able to reach as many people as we can, thousands, millions even, with the empowering tools to help them and to assist them on their journey towards spiritual wholeness. I'm asking you to help us to do so by showing your support. For those of you who are partners, and if you're not a partner, you really, really should become a partner with the Emerge movement. There is nothing like it. There's a description written above this video that talks about partnership in very briefly. But if you want to know more about it and you'd like to become a partner, you're interested or curious, simply send us an email to the email address you see on the screen. Ask for an information packet and I will send it out to you immediately. Or you can go and visit our website and look at that information there. And then again, just send us an email requesting partnership information and I'll send it to you immediately. You sign the partnership agreement and send it back to us. And that's it. You gain access to the partner portal. You're invited to our annual partner summit and all of the other benefits that come along with partnership. I invite you to become a partner today. But I'm asking all of you to help us by sowing and giving. That partners, you know what you're expected to do. We're following a financial fitness plan that is ensuring our financial growth, development, and prosperity before the end of the year. Absolutely guaranteed to work. You got to be a partner to find out what it is, but the partners know. We've had partners manifest new houses already simply by following the financial fitness plan. But if you like to sow in the good ground and support this work, you can do so by using any of the platforms that you see on your screen right now. I am grateful and I thank you for your generosity. You can give by using our Cashapp, Zelle, PayPal, or Venmo. All of them are emergelec. And we appreciate each and every one of you for your support. And there's a principle that you have to give what it is that you desire to receive. And that because you have been blessed and impacted positively by this platform, it's only right. Now, you're not, obligated, but it's only right that you would support it by sowing into it. And so I'm going to ask you today, as you are leaving, to pick up your phone, open your app, whatever app you're using, and sow a generous seed today of whatever amount it is that you feel inclined or led to give. I appreciate your love and support and your participation in these empowerment sessions. Thank you for coming. Have an absolutely fantastic day. Man, I'm going to continue this conversation with the partners in the partner portal because there is so much more to this, so many layers that I want to uncover and dig into. If you'd like to become a partner, go ahead and do it now so that you'll be able to have access to the partner portal and be invited into the group so that you're able to participate in that conversation. Thank you for all of my friends who popped in, Bishop Broaddux and as well as others. I appreciate your support and your love and your contribution to the platform. Thank you and have an absolutely wonderful day, everybody. I love you, and I hope that you love me as much as I love you. Bye now.
Some of you are even afraid to dream, afraid to imagine. But I'm here to tell you that you are an infinite, limitless, boundless being. Are you willing to do what is necessary to have what you desire?
You've been listening to Apostle Isaac Miles, the disruptive innovator, a mentor, an author, a motivational speaker, an entrepreneur, and the founder and spiritual director at emergelec Life Enrichment Center. Please take a minute to subscribe, like, and share this page. If you'd like to become a partner, you can do so by emailing us at emerge.lifecenter@gmail.com. Again, that's emerge.lifecenter@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for watching.